One of them is punctuality, right? The second is don't be shy, right? As I said, some of you may not be able to put on your video. I appreciate that. Where you are, there could be bandwidth issues or also if you want. But if you're going to be shy and you aspire to be an officer in the Indian Army, it won't work. You have to expose yourself. You have to be prepared for experiences. You're prepared for being, humbled by other experiences. So all this part is part of the life of being an officer. Remember that what you're aspiring for is to be an officer in the army. In the army or the navy or the air force, many of our experiences when you are 17 years old or 10, 11, 12, 13, go to your towns and villages, the people you see of the army are soldiers. Now, an officer is also obviously a soldier. He has to be a better soldier than what we call troops. But the life you're aspiring for is not a life of a Sipahi or a Nayak or a Havaldar. You are aspiring for a life of being a lieutenant, a captain, a major. That's a very, very different life. It's a very different responsibility. It's a very different life. It's not what you may have seen among the people in your towns and villages, right? In my village in Kerala, we don't have any other officer. I'm the only officer there. We have 5, 6 soldiers. Their lives are very different. But remember that an officer has to be a better soldier than what we call soldiers or jawans. So the place that you're aspiring to go to after school is the National Defence Academy. It's in Pune. It is 3 years of a regular graduation program under the Jawaharlal Nehru University. You can do a BTech course, you can do a BSc course, and therefore you get your degree. But while you get your degree, you're also trained in military manners, military life, and a little bit of things like shooting, outdoor exercises, training. But basically, the 3 years you spend at NDA is pursuing a degree. It's an academic institution where you do a degree, right? That's the NDA. When you finish your NDA after 3 years, then people who join the NDA and opt for Army, Navy, Air Force will go to the respective training institutions for specialized training in each of these services. These services are Army, Navy, Air Force. If you're opted for the Army, then you will go to Indian Military Academy, Dehradun. If you're opted for the Navy, you'll go to the Naval Academy, which is in Kerala. If you go opted for the Air Force, you'll go to Hyderabad to the Air Force Academy, where you finish another year and a half, which is specialized training. So if you join the Air Force, you learn how to fly combat aircraft. You join the Army, you go to the Indian Military Academy, you learn many more things about military, about the Army, so that you're trained and ready to join infantry battalions, armored corps, which is tanks, or various arms and services of the Army as lieutenants. You wear 2 stars on your shoulder the moment you get commissioned. So that is what you do. If you join the Navy, then you become a sub-lieutenant and you wear those lovely golden stripes on your white uniform. And for that, you go for your Naval Academy training after you do the NDA. NDA is one of the few institutions in the world which is tri-services, which means it trains people for Army, Navy, and Air Force together. But remember, the NDA is not military training mainly. It is academics mainly, right? But it's demanding. It makes you do PT, drill, route march, etc. But through all that, you are in an academic institution where you do academic classes and 70% of your life is in academic classes. Remember that NDA is also called a cradle for leadership. It's where you learn to lead people. And leading people, you will learn in a way that it's not only useful for you while you're in the military. For people like me who have a career after my military life, that NDA life in the age of 17 to 20 has taught me things which I can still use in leadership. And that is the beautiful part of the National Defense Academy. Why I'm saying more about the NDA is because that is your immediate aim. Your immediate aim is understand the NDA, understand how that examination works. First, you understand the NDA in a way that you have to consider, is this what you want to do? मैंने ये करना है कि नहीं, फौज join करना है कि नहीं? So that you must understand. And you can say, ये मेरे लिए नहीं. Or you can say, wow, this looks fantastic. I must give it a shot. Then you do the NDA exam. And I would suggest for anyone who's interested or who thinks there's some interest, doing the NDA exam and going through that process of the written and the SSB is itself a fantastic experience. After that, you still have a choice to say you want to go or not. That is your choice. You can reconsider after you have qualified. When I chose to do the NDA exam, honestly, I wasn't that interested in the army. I had lots of army friends who were classmates. They filled my form. Someone paid the fees, 28 rupees, UPSC. And then I was forced to do the exam because doston ne ye form bhara hua tha. So I went and did the exam and I saw one movie after one exam. I did one more exam, did one more movie, did one more exam, did one more movie. 4 exam दिया और 4 पिक्चर देखे, 3 पिक्चर देखे. और उसके याद अभी भी, पिक्चरों के याद नाम अभी भी याद है. When I was 17, that's a long time ago, 43 years ago. But I qualified on the written exam. So what I'm telling you through this story is that a Vidyagyan student who's anyway good at academics, you should sail through the written exam. And yesterday I got some statistics. It's rare that a Vidyagyan student will not come through the exam. The exam is not a great experience for you, but the SSB is an incredible experience. There is nowhere in the world which people spend 4 days of selection to join the organization. You go to some interview somewhere, 2-3 interviews होते हैं, आधे घंटे पहले पौने घंटा and say come and join. Because then they can say, okay, you're not very good after 3 months and say, okay, bye-bye. But in the army, we can't afford to make the mistake. We can't afford to take the wrong people. So we spend days to do that process, and some of it you can be trained for, prepared for. Some of it you can't. Sagar, put off your audio, please. Can someone mute others?
Sorry, if you can please.
That is possible. Yeah, thank you, Sagar. Okay. So remember one thing about the National Defense Academy or the selection for the military officer. We are talking about officer only. Please remember, I'm not talking about Sipahi banna, Havaldar banna. I'm talking about lieutenant banna, officer banna. Uske liye jo the training that you get, the selection that you get is to determine whether you have potential to be a leader. And there is some parts of us which is inherent, bachpan se andar hai, which will say yes, potential to lead, and some will say no, you will become a great scientist, you can become a great sports person, you can become a great bureaucrat, but you may not be fit to join the army. So there's nothing wrong in that. Some people have talent to play cricket, some people don't have talent to play cricket. मेहनत से सब कुछ नहीं हो सकता. मेहनत से कोई इंडिया का क्रिकेटर नहीं बन सकता. थोड़ा टैलेंट इनहेरेंट चाहिए अंदर से. रोहित शर्मा जब बैटिंग करता है, वो भगवान ने दिया उसको स्किल। और शेफाली वर्मा जो शिवनाडा स्कूल में स्टूडेंट है, वो मेहनत बहुत है, 4-4 घंटे काम करती है वो। शी इज आवर स्टूडेंट बाय द वे। बट जो गिफ्ट भगवान ने दिया है वो है। तो वैसे ही लीडरशिप का एक गिफ्ट होता है, सम पीपल हैव इट। देयर इज अ बिग discussion on it, leaders are made or leaders are born and all that. I feel a small portion of leadership is born. It is innate, it is inside you. That can be developed, but SSB is trying to find out wo aapka 20% 10% hai ki nahi. So you don't have to be disappointed if you don't make it in SSB. My son did not make it in SSB. He used to pass the written exam, do all the screening and everything. He is very well off. He's got a $100,000 car in BMW car, $100,000 salary in Canada. But Indian Army का ऑफिसर नहीं बन सकता वो नहीं है, उसमें चिपकली से डरता है। So वो अंदर से है। You can't help it. वो 2 साल में डरता था, वो 15 साल में भी डरेगा। तो डर है। SSB tries to find out आपके अंदर डर है कि नहीं, leadership है कि नहीं. So you don't have to feel bad if you don't make it in SSB. It's all right. You'll do well in other walks of life, but that is the privilege of joining the Indian Army. They check whether you have leadership at a very young age, just like all of you. At Vidya Gyan, at the young age of 11, there is a test to check whether you have potential to be hardworking, work hard, academically, are you bright? That is what the Vidya Gyan test is checking you when you're 11. And then you go through this journey of school. Similarly is the NDA. Now I've given you a big overview. Now I'll show you a few quick slides, one video, and then we'll do question answers. I'm going to do this quickly in about 10 to 15 minutes so that we have time. Okay, let's go. I hope we can see, and just tell me, Gauri, let me know when you can see my screen, okay?
Sure, sir. So your screen is visible.
Excellent. So our mission is National Defense Academy 2022-23, which is what your batches should go through. And anything you do in life, you must treat it like a mission, because only then you do it well. So the opportunity to carry and represent India and carry the Indian flag is what you get when you join the army. All right, so what will I cover? I just want to show you some photos of some military veterans in the Shiv Nada Foundation. Some of you may be surprised, you know, but I'll show probably them in uniform. Okay. Then we'll do introduction to the National Defense Academy. We'll do introduction to Army, Navy, and the Air Force. That is after NDA, what happens. Then we'll briefly touch upon the selection process of NDA. And I would like to cover what's the perks of being a military officer. What are the perks? Okay, so here we go. Some of us are privileged that we have had the best of both worlds, both in the military as well as in the Shiv Nada Foundation. So here are some people. Commander Vikrant is our head of hostels at the Shiv Nada University. And here he is in wonderful uniform of the Navy, so spotlessly white, overlooking the sea in the background. And that's an amazing life to travel around the world on the sea and live a life of great pride and happiness. Colonel Atul Bali is the head of administration Shiv Nada School in Faridabad. That's Colonel Bali as a young captain, I think. Captain Anita Ganju is now in the Shiv Nada University. She's a project manager. She works with me. And she joined the EME, Electrical and Mechanical Engineering. She's a computer science graduate. And that's Captain Anita Ganju. And of course, I have to show you a bit of my photograph. That's me after retirement, but wearing my uniform with great pride on this Republic Day at the Shiv Nada University. There's Wing Commander Anand from the Air Force. He's head of administration at the Shiv Nada University. He has many skills. He's a great golf player. He also plays the saxophone. And when Gauri, who you see on the screen just now, who's from Vidyagyan, 4 years your senior, graduated from the Shivnada University last month, joined the Shivnada University on a short assignment. That's Gauri. And when we had a little graduation ceremony for our 4 scholarship students, Wing Commander Anand played the saxophone for them. So he learned how to play this wonderful instrument recently. Then all of you would know from Sitapur School, Captain Tiwari. And Captain Tiwari is right now a lieutenant, but he is not a lieutenant. He later on became a captain. Just give me a second. Anil, I'm busy. I have a call. I'm in a presentation. I'm in a presentation. Okay, all right. This is somebody you may know in Bulandshahr, if I'm not wrong. Anil. Okay, that's
Yes,
him in uniform. And of course, we even have a general, and that is Major General Jayashankar, who's the Dean of Student Affairs. He's also my batchmate from NDA. So we've known each other for 43 or 44 years, many, many years. So those are all the people that you have. And of course, the one we are most proud of is someone who's from your school, batch of 2016, 2017, which is Lieutenant Anuj Dhariwal, who's just got commission, and I hope you got to see his passing out parade. But it's fantastic to see somebody from Vidyagyan so proudly wearing the Indian Army uniform. The one on the left is when he was in his 3rd term as a cadet in the Indian Military Academy. That's his 3rd term uniform. What you see on his shoulders is senior under officer. That means he leads this whole company. That is how you learn leadership, because you're responsible for all 120 cadets under you. And that's how you learn leadership while at the academy. Isn't he looking super smart? And then that is Anuj, just on the 12th of June last month, when he graduated with his parents and wearing those 2 wonderful stars, which is the lieutenant in the Indian Army after 4 years of training. And that's me with Anuj when we played squash, when I went to the Indian Military Academy to speak to the cadets. It was wonderful and delightful to meet him. And he also mentioned that when I came to Vidyagyan, when he was in 8th, we had a similar session that I'm doing with you now to talk to you about the Army and the NDA and the IMA. And he said he sort of got inspired from that conversation. So I hope many of you do feel the same as you meet with me and as you hear about Army life, and join the Army and remember me 5 years later. Okay. Now, the wonderful part is that I suppose Anuj and all of you at the Vidyagyan schools have inspired so many more people to join the NDA. So it's not the first time for you. It's fantastic to have seniors of your school in NDA. When you join, you always have guidance. You can talk to them and find out how life is. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 from the batch of 17-18, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 from the 19-20 batch, which is just the last year batch, right? So it's fantastic. You have, I'm so proud that you will have 8 more officers in the Army, Navy, and the Air Force who are currently at NDA from Vidyagyan. Okay, so now why is it called a cradle for leadership? As I said, NDA is one of the few institutions in the world where there is Army, Navy, Air Force training together. Those are emblems of the Air Force, then the Indian Army, and then the Indian Navy. That is what is the National Defense Academy. Okay, now we will see a short video, Manish, on the NDA.
नेशनल डिफेंस एकेडमी हिंदुस्तान का एक बेहतरीन ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट है जहां भारतीय फौजों की कमान संभालने वाले भावी लीडरों की मजबूत नींव तैयार की जाती है। पुणे शहर के खड़गवासला नाम के एक उपनगर में स्थित है एनडीए, जहां कैडेट्स को तराशकर लीडर बनाया जाता है। शुरू में एकेडमी बनाने के लिए देहरादून के नाम का सुझाव दिया गया था, लेकिन बाद में उसके लिए
Excuse me, sir. Video is not visible.
Please.
Sir, it was visible to us. I think
For me, it is not visible. I don't know what about the students. Now I can see.
Oh, can you see it now?
Sir, now it's fine.
Everyone? What do you think?
नेशनल डिफेंस एकेडमी हिंदुस्तान का एक बेहतरीन ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट है जहां भारतीय फौजों की कमान संभालने वाले भावी लीडरों की मजबूत नींव तैयार की जाती है। पुणे शहर के खड़गवासला नाम के एक उपनगर में स्थित है एनडीए, जहां कैडेट्स को तराशकर लीडर बनाया जाता है। शुरू में एकेडमी बनाने के लिए देहरादून के नाम का सुझाव दिया गया था, लेकिन बाद में उसके लिए खड़गवासला का चुनाव किया गया। इस नई जगह पर तीनों सेनाओं की ट्रेनिंग के लिहाज से बेहतरीन हालात मौजूद हैं। हिंदुस्तान की नेशनल डिफेंस एकेडमी के कैंपस के बीचों बीच स्थित सूडान ब्लॉक में इसका हेडक्वार्टर है।
सूडान ब्लॉक सुबह 7:22।
इस इमारत को डोनेशन में मिले पैसों से उन भारतीय फौजियों को सम्मानित करने के लिए बनाया गया था जिन्होंने शुरुआती द्वितीय विश्व युद्ध के दौरान सूडान की आजादी के लिए अपनी जान कुर्बान की थी। कैंपस के बीचों बीच बनी सूडान ब्लॉक की इमारत के इर्द गिर्द ही एकेडमी ने अपना शुरुआती आकार लेना शुरू किया था। एनडीए को तीनों सेनाओं को ट्रेनिंग देने की जगह बनाने का विचार द्वितीय विश्व युद्ध के बाद आया था, जिससे कि सेना के तीनों अंगों में बेहतर तालमेल हो सके।
तो असल में 1949 में उस समय तत्कालीन प्रधानमंत्री जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने खड़गवासला में एकेडमी की नींव रखी थी और 1955 में इसने काम करना शुरू कर दिया था। आज इस बेजोड़ संस्था पर हिंदुस्तान को ही नहीं बल्कि सभी उन दूसरे देशों को भी गर्व है जो अपने कैडेट्स को यहाँ ट्रेनिंग के लिए भेजते हैं।
पहले दिन मैं यहाँ आया तो मैं इन बड़ी बड़ी इमारतों और स्मारकों को देखकर पूरी तरह से चौंक गया था। मैंने अपनी जिंदगी में इतनी बड़ी जगह कभी नहीं देखी थी।
हिंदुस्तान के पास दुनिया की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी आर्मी यानी थल सेना, चौथी सबसे बड़ी एयरफोर्स यानी वायुसेना और सातवीं सबसे बड़ी नेवी यानी नौसेना है। ये तीनों तरह की फौजों को ट्रेनिंग देने वाली दुनिया की पहली एकेडमी है जहां अच्छे इंसान और बेहतरीन योद्धा तैयार किए जाते हैं। ये है एनडीए यानी नेशनल डिफेंस एकेडमी।
Can you hear me, Gauri?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the audio was clear, the video was clear. Did you enjoy the film? Deepak, I
Yes.
can raise your hand. You're the only one I can see from the films, and Manish has raised his hand, so good to know. Okay, great. So I hope you enjoyed the film. I'll go back to screen share. Where is our presentation? Here we go. Or you just confirm that you can see it. You can?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We
Okay,
can.
so let's go to, we'll continue with our conversation about life in the army now. You've seen the National Defense Academy. We will just go ahead. Okay, so I can tell you many army stories. This is on the Siachen Glacier. I think I'll keep the stories to the conversation with you. If you ask me about some stories about somewhere or the other, maybe I'll tell you. But this is at 20,500. It's the highest military post in the world. I had the privilege of serving here. It's on the top of Siachen Glacier. In the whole world, there's no military post higher than this. We live dug into the snow. The temperature can be minus 50. The winds can be at 50 kilometers per hour. But it's the most exhilarating feeling in the world to serve in these very unbelievable circumstances with the soldiers of our wonderful army. It's a lifelong experience. It's one of the huge turning points of my life. And any difficult times I have in my life, I always think of Siachen and say nothing could be bigger than that. So I never feel any moment of my life is difficult. There are no tensions, there are no worries, but it's an incredible life of great purpose that when you're serving in such incredible areas, and it's not difficult. This is what I was telling you about, that's your life. That's me as a commanding officer, again at about 15,000 feet in the Kashmir line of control. And those are my wonderful soldiers of the Kumaon Regiment. And we have lots of people from Haryana and UP in my Kumaon battalion. That's a snapshot of me, as you can see, in 2003, which is about 18 years ago. Okay, and many of you may have heard of it. Many of you will be familiar. Some of you may not know, but these are everything that you can become if you join the NDA, join the army. You from lieutenant, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, which is where I retired early, brigadier, major general, which is what General Jaishankar was. He was also the commandant of the Indian military training team at Bhutan. You can be a lieutenant general, who commands armies. Many armies of the Indian Army has armies called Northern Command, Southern Command, etc. And then you become the chief of the army, right? And there's only one field marshal we've had. It's a very, very, very famous man who won the 71 war for India, called Field Marshal Manekshaw. Similarly, you join as a flying officer. You become like a wing commander, like Wing Commander Anand. You become air commodores, you can air marshals and air chief marshals. And you can become a lieutenant like Vikrant sir here. And then you become commanders and captains and commodores and admirals in the Navy. So those are some of the ranks. The selection process of NDA, which we can talk about in much more detail, but you have 2 exams in April and September. And as I said, you apply online, which is all quite easy. You do the written test, which should be very easy for a Vidyagyan good student. Then you have the SSB, which is the 4-day selection process, which is really interesting, very unusual, unique. Everyone who qualifies for the written must try it because it's itself a great experience. Then there's a medical exam to make sure that your body is fit and okay and there are no major problems. And then the results and the merit list happens, right? Maybe I can boast a little bit and say that while I saw a movie after every written exam, I did do the SSB after that. And I was in the merit list 19th in the Indian Army and 5th in the Indian Air Force in the merit list for India. So written exam is one part, SSB is a major part of that selection process. That's what you have in the written exam. You have mathematics, then you have GAT, which is a combination of all these things you have to do, which is English, physics, chemistry, general science, history, geography, current affairs. And there are these several papers that you have to do. Mathematics is now increasingly important because Army is a very technical sort of a organization right now. And therefore you need the Army. You need to be good at mathematics because whether you're Army, Navy or Air Force, it's an incredibly important part, right? As I said, the SSB interview on day one is screening, and they check your broad screening to see your intelligence test, picture perception. There's a test where pictures are shown out and you have to write a few sentences based on that. Then there's a discussion. And after the day one of screening, many people are sort of not selected to go further, and others do day 2, day 3, day 4, which is broadly there is psychology, there's group testing, and there is an interview. These are the 3 major tests which happen in the SSB. Psychology, as I told you, while those tests are there, either you have it or you don't have it. Too much of preparation is not necessary. Group testing is group tasks. They see whether you're collaborative, you're listening, whether you're thinking. That's what group testing is. Again, too much of knowledge and too much of preparation is not necessary for this. Whatever preparation you do around this is to generally be familiar so that you're not surprised when that happens. I didn't do any tests at all. I didn't get any guidance. I just went for it. But as you know, I wasn't that keen at that point of time. But my experiences of the Army and seeing many things later on in my life, I think we overdo the testing and preparation bit like you do for engineering and other exams. Maybe you need a lot of preparations, but to do the SSB test, you need to generally know kya hota hai, and that's more than enough. There are, of course, individual obstacle tests and group obstacle, but your physical fitness, you're not joining as a Jawan. So 4 kilometer bhagna, push-up karna, pull-up karna is not so important when you're 17, 18, 19. Right? And therefore, that is what you need to do. Is that Om Bharati who's saying, what is conference? If you're there, you could ask me. Okay, so whoever's drawing lines, please don't do that. Okay, and the conference, because I saw a name called Om Bharati. Is that a student of VG? You could check, or is somebody else? Conference is the big interview that you have. So those are the 3 parts that we have: the psychology test, the group testing, and conference. The broad thing to understand is you should just generally know what happens there. A little bit of preparation is good. Over preparation is not necessary. Okay, Gauri, can you see red lines on my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So our organizing committee can figure who's doing that. It may be by mistake, but I'm sorry for that. I can't do anything to remove it, I think. What are the perks of the job? As everyone says, what are the perks of the job? You want to know? Everyone loves to get car, mobile, and house. Well, that's what you get. You get not a car, but you get a plane to fly or a tank to drive. You don't get a mobile, but you get this incredible radio equipment to talk, right? So that's what you get. So I just thought I'd tell you that it's incredible what you get, but it's a great life. The Sukhoi costs something like 300 crores and one pilot flies it, one man. There's nobody else there. No 21-year-old, however bright you are in any profession, gets to fly a Sukhoi for 45 minutes like a joyride. Or you get to drive a 30 crore tank, right? So that's some of the incredible perks of joining the military. While you're training at the Indian Military Academy, Air Force Academy, you also get a very handsome stipend of 56,000 rupees, and you get a salary when you're a lieutenant or a lieutenant in the Navy, sub-lieutenant, or in the Air Force. When you join, you get salary equal to about 75,000 rupees per month. Of course, accommodation is subsidized, food is subsidized, transport, as I told you, is all the things that you see in front and many other jeeps, jongas, etc. But it's a fantastically comfortable life also now in terms of what you get. But the real perk, students, is it's a great life of purpose. It's a great life of meaning. You're not sitting behind a desk from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock all your life. You travel. It's a life of great respect and pride. And as I said, it's an unbelievable lifestyle. The opportunities I've had to travel. For example, the Brahmaputra enters India in Arunachal Pradesh in a place called Giling. And I walked all along the Brahmaputra to the Chinese border. It's something I'll never forget. I've lived 2 years in Leh and Ladakh. It's an incredibly beautiful place. I've lived in 25 states of India at the Indian Army's cost. I traveled for free. I've crossed the Brahmaputra, for example, over many boats and cars, and it's been an incredible experience. I went on a United Nations mission to Kuwait, on the Iraq-Kuwait border, and had the privilege of being a UN officer while I was in the army and a major, representing India and my country. And therefore, the experience is unbelievable, but most of all, it's the opportunity to lead people. Nowhere in the world will you be 22, 23 years old and get 100 people to lead in your team. You can be the brightest technology guy. You will have a team of 4 or 5, maybe at 27. But you will never get to lead at such a young age and be responsible for other humans and their lives. So that's what the life in the military is all about. Now we will come to conversations, and we can sort of exit from here. Okay, here we are. Anyone who has anything to ask, I'm open.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Is your name B-I-N-D, Bin Pratap Singh?
Yes, sir.
Is it possible for you to turn your video on when you're asking or talking?
No, sir. Actually, I'm not in the space to turn on my video. I'm sorry for that.
Okay, do ask. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question regarding the afterlife as after qualifying for as an NDA officer. Sir, do NDA officers, after after joining as lieutenant, do they keep their families with them?
Okay, so they're not NDA officers, they're officers of the Indian Army, Navy, or Air Force. NDA is, as I told you, a training institution. It's a very good question. I didn't touch upon that. The life of an army officer's wife and the life of an army officer's children, and I don't mean just wife, but also spouse, because you could be none of you are girls here, but you can now join Army, Navy, Air Force as girl cadets. In fact, Gauri has a scholarship colleague with her in the Shiv Nada University. Her name is Rinki. She's 4 years your senior from Vidyagyan. She's now on the way to join the Air Force as an officer. So she's under a bit of guidance and training. I hope she gets there soon. So obviously, the life of the lady, in our case, since we are all males and we're locked up, and the life of the children is the most incredible life. Of course, you get to live with your wife and children, but sure, if you go to Siachen Glacier, you can't take them. If you go to the line of control on the border, you can't take them. But if you can't take them, they will have army accommodation, whether it's in Delhi, Shahjahanpur, Mau, where my family lived. They stay there in quite a comfortable cantonment with all the other facilities of club and market and sports and each other for company. So it's a pretty good life, right? And schooling, Army runs 180 schools across India in many cantonments, right? We obviously have many medical colleges and dental institutes, all run, management schools also run by the Army. All this is available for our children, soldiers' children, officers' children, etc. So yes, Army officers' wives, families live with them nearly everywhere except in difficult field areas.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. I'm expecting lots of questions and conversations.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Deepak.
Like after
Raise
qualifying,
your hands. Abhishek,
I think Abhishek is also raised.
please raise your hands. I'll come to you by name. Yes, Deepak.
so like after qualifying NDA exam, so how should we go on for preparing SSB? What should be our approach?
Yeah, so as we were discussing yesterday before this meeting with all of you, the Vidyagyan team will help in terms of your preparation once you qualify. It's something we have already discussed. We will help you to get an understanding. In fact, we may even put you through some training so that you know what to do when you go for your SSB. I would expect 80-90% of those who apply from Vidyagyan to qualify for the written, and you will get some preparation training to go before you go for your SSB. But as I've said, two things you must keep in mind. One, you must always try your very best in any sort of venture, including SSB. Firstly, you do not need too much of training. Two, there is one part of us which has potential for leadership and one part which doesn't. It is not some written exam, बहुत मेहनत कर लिया, बहुत तैयारी कर ली तो pass हो जाएंगे. Some of us, in spite of all that, may not pass. That doesn't matter. But Shiv Nara Foundation and Vidyagyan will help you through your preparation. Abhishek.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Deepak. Abhishek.
Good morning, everybody. So, with due respect, I would like to ask you, can you please, in a laconic manner, can you please explain what are the major problems which you told in the medical tests?
Okay. Are you a student, Abhishek?
Yeah, I'm of 12th class, in a 12th class.
In the medical, again, Pamela ma'am and I discussed this yesterday. I'm a bit surprised that there are some students from Vidyagyan who don't make it through the medical apparently. But again, it is like the SSB. Agar hamara dil theek nahi hai, dil means heart, not the other wala dil, not the love wala dil, but the dil which pumps blood. Now, if the heart is not okay to do heavy duty workouts and tough sort of things, then the medical will say this heart is a little bit of a problem. You can live a normal life, it's not a problem, but you may not be able to live a life of extremes sometimes that you need to do in the military. So it will tell you. There are some things about body structure, height, weight, those are considered. So, but broadly, they're only trying to see, the army is only trying to see, is your internal system quite okay? Sab hisse purje theek hain ki nahi, that's all, right? That's about as much as is seen. But many of us can lead a life, for example, high blood pressure, high sugar, you can live a normal life, but you may not be able to live a military life. So that's what is checked in the medical test.
Sir, actually, as I have a bit deform in my ring finger, right ring finger, but it works completely and perfectly. So, is there probability of getting out rejected from the medicals?
I think what you can do is that we have a we have a naval officer in the Shivnada University. Her name is Dr. Suman. She's a doctor. So maybe she is a good person and Gauri can help connect Abhishek to Dr. Suman, and they will be able to say what sort of problems can be there if you have a ring finger issue, etc. So maybe she could answer. I don't know exactly about whether that is an issue or not an issue. Okay, Abhishek? But
Okay,
Gauri
sure.
will help you connect.
Yes,
Okay, sure.
definitely.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Dhruv,
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Good morning, sir.
good morning.
Sir, actually, my question is that suppose we qualify J exam also and ND also. So, is there any possibility that first we go for BTech from IIT and then join ND?
Yes, there is a possibility you can join as a technical entry after you qualify from IIT, and then you can join the Indian Military Academy, where you will have to spend 1.5 years. The NDA cadet, after 3 years of NDA, spends 1 year training, but it's called direct entry and technical entry. You will spend a little more time in training because you didn't have the NDA advantage. So you will spend a little more time and you can join there. I must also tell you, in my batch, which is 1958 batch, 58 batch, 1981 commission, I had 6 people who left joining IIT Delhi and joined the Indian Army. They chose not to join IIT Delhi, but joined the Indian Army. Many of them are brigadiers and
Sir,
colonels.
according to you, which will be more suitable, means which will be best for us, ND or IIT?
So I knew that question is going to happen. I only gave you facts and data. It's a very individual choice, though. It's a very individual choice. It's a completely 2 different lives, right? But it's a very individual choice. You have to ask yourself, and with as much, see, everything you don't know at 17. You don't even know yourself. I mean, at 60 also, I'm discovering myself, so don't worry. But you need to ask yourself with as much conversation with other people to try and figure if you qualify for both, what you would like to do, right? But ultimately, अपने दिल से पूछना है कि मुझे क्या ठीक लगता है. For example, I did not have great desire at that time at 17 to join the army. I took only 2 weeks of National Defense Academy. और मैंने बोला ये तो मेरे लिए बना है ये NDA. I loved it, right? I love sport, I love camaraderie, I love leadership, I love to learn in these atmosphere. I like to push myself to my limits, and I've loved the army life. I've loved NDA, IMA, and the 28 years I spent after that. So I don't think I could have been in a better place for my nature. I love traveling. I'm curious. I like experiences, right? I love being challenged. So you have to ask yourself, अगर आपको साइंटिस्ट बन के कुछ क्रिएट करना है और उसमें जॉय मिलता है, then you should join IIT. So that's what you will have to do. You'll have to figure. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any more questions? Students,
Okay, I have a question. How many of you are interested to appear for the NDA test? Please raise your hands. I don't know if all of you are in a position to raise your hands.
Already applied.
there are
Some of
so
you may
many,
be-
they're
Some
coming
of
in.
you may be on phones. Some of
They are
you.
raising their hands. We have, yes.
So in
So-
fact, two of them who have cleared the NDA written,
Sir.
they are also present over here. Prince and Shekhar.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my God, that's a lot.
We have 15, 20, 23. Oh, we have so many there.
When I retire and go to my village, I will like to know how many of these wonderful people became officers and how many of you remember that I talked to you. Just like Anuj not only remembered, in the Times of India interview, we mentioned that last week that Colonel Gopal came to us in Vidya Gyan in my 8th class. So it was delightful to read that he remembered that similarly, just like I'm talking to you. Okay.
There are
so
many
that's
hands
wonderful.
out there, sir.
So, anything to add, Rohit? Rohit is one of the most unique persons in the Shivnada Foundation, who's been in Vidyagyan, who's been in Shivnada University, and also now has joined the Shivnada schools in the sports department at Shivnada School, Faridabad. So we're very proud of what Rohit has achieved so far. And Rohit, anything to add? You're a recent graduate. Gauri, anything to add? As a recent graduate, what would you like to share with your schoolmates? Rohit, you can go first.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for that lovely, lovely thing, whatever you said, sir. So one thing which I have mostly learned from sir is you should never forget, even if you don't love or if you don't enjoy sports, be into sports, enjoy playing sports, because it not only teaches you how to accept failures, but it also teaches you how to compete, because this is all competitive world. If you play competitive games, competitive sports, you will have that energy, you will have that enthusiasm to compete in the real world. So that's one of the most important things which I got to learn from sir and being around him. So yeah, I think you all should carry on playing sports, some of the other sports, and get involved with a lot of things, because when you'll get involved with things, you have a lot of exposure to learn, because learning is very important. And just try to grab as many opportunities as are available. And I know you all will rock and you'll do wonders. I don't doubt anybody. All the best. My best wishes are with you for your NDA exam. Do well.
Thank you, Rohit. Gauri?
So hello everybody, I'm Gauri, and I am from the Vidyagyan Bulandshahr campus. I was from batch second, and the things which I've learned from sir and like till now during my graduation or throughout my life till now is that, like as Rohit already said, that keep taking the opportunities which come onto your ways, and just enjoy whatever you're doing, and just be passionate about whatever you are good at, and you will be taken to the great heights if you give your 100% to something.
Sorry to disturb. One more thing I have learned from sir, because that's I'm not gonna forget in my entire life. Follow what you are good at. We follow passion. We follow what we love. But what I have differently learned from sir is follow what you are good at. So we try following our passion. We try following what we love. But that's something different I heard from sir, and that's I think works for everybody. Follow what you are good at. Never forget. Follow what you are good at.
Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Arushi and Swati ma'am.
Yeah, so thank you so much, sir, for such a fruitful session. And I'm sure all those present here, the students, are really motivated and inspired to join the Indian Army. And I think what Rohit and Gauri has said, there's lots and lots to learn from you, sir. And I would just like to share that I have taught in Army Public School for 17 years. So I have very closely experienced the life of an army officer's wife and the children. So, and I still remember some of my students joined the NDA and they were commissioned officers, and they came back to meet me. And I was so proud of them. I just can't explain. It's that honor and respect and the pride that one experiences, not only being as officer, but even those who are associated with those officers. So it was, and I mean, 2 years back, in fact, we had gone to NDA Khadakwasla, 2009. We'd taken class 11, the outgoing batch, and it was an amazing experience, amazing experience. So thank you so much, sir, and we will keep needing your guidance time and again. So we'll keep troubling you and approaching you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Look forward. Have a happy life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for a wonderful session.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.